This is Mayor Karen Bass, who is a DEI mayor. Let's just be very clear. She is a black woman. I'm not sure if she's lesbian. I don't know if she is or not. Probably not. But she's a black mayor who's there just because of diversity, equity, inclusion. She ran up against Caruso, who's a very well-known developer, very qualified, and she beat her in a incredibly sneaky, suspicious election. And the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, was an organizer for the Marxist Venceremos Brigade, who supported Fidel Castro. She visited Cuba 8 times as a young woman. Outside of politics, her main job was a community organizer. This is the embodiment of left-wing ideology. This is the manifestation of the woke. You can't put out fires. You got a black woman mayor in Ghana. You got 3 lesbian fire chiefs on the name of Kristen. This is peak woke. Play cut 125.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
That's the first time I saw that piece of clip. Did she not hear the question? What's the? It looks like she was on some sort of plane gate terminal. Is that right? $500 million budget deficit. When these fires broke out, Bass was on a pleasure trip all the way in Ghana, in Africa, to visit the inauguration of the country's new president. That visit was paid for with taxpayer funds. Los Angeles has a budget deficit of almost $500 million. If your city doesn't have a balanced budget, the number of diplomatic trips should go to 0. I live in Phoenix, by the way. I was just talking to a realtor. He said he is getting inundated with calls right now of people from California that say, we're done, we're leaving, we're done. And I do not wish harm on anybody because of their politics. I don't. However, for every person that has advocated, raised money, bundled, and donated to Democrats, you are living in the tragedy of your own making. And you guys were told by the New York Times, the Washington Post, right-wing people like Elon Musk and right-wing people like Charlie Kirk are making it seem like woke ideologies doesn't harm you. And now you don't have a driveway. And now everything you own is gone. We were fear-mongering. We were pouncing. Republicans pounce. We're too divisive. Turns out we were right. It turns out all of you in this audience were right. It turns out that every single one of us. And I got to be honest, though, there's a lot of American first and patriots that no longer have homes, too. I know of 15 conservative people, some of which that work on our team that I mentioned yesterday, their entire home is gone. And again, I do not take delight in anybody's suffering. I do not take joy in people's misery. But the Democrat Party has been wanting America to commit suicide over the last decade. And now they don't have a home. And I do feel sorry for them. But I hope some of these Democrats that now everything they own is gone. Look at that. So, and look, I don't want to overly politicize this. Blake, can you pull up the precinct map of how Pacific Palisades voted? Let's just go straight at the third rail of this whole thing. It's 80-20 Democrat. Am I right? Let's get the precinct map. Let's make sure we get it right. I want the New York Times precinct map. No one deserves to suffer because of their politics. However, if you have voted a certain way, this is what you wanted. This used to be a conservative area back in the 1950s. 8 out of 10 of those houses you're seeing are left-wing Democrats. 8 out of 10. And that's a tragedy. They don't deserve it. They're American citizens. They deserve help. But they advocated for this. They donated to Joe Biden. They raised money for Kamala Harris. And this is why politics matters. And this is why when these pastors and these good-for-nothing people will come up to me, oh, Charlie, I'm tired of politics. Well, if you don't get politics right, you don't have a home. This is 100% a byproduct of your willingness or your unwillingness to engage in the political arena. And when California in a couple of weeks comes crawling back for federal assistance, Trump should say, listen, I'm not going to give you a dime unless you fire the lesbian Christians. You mandate the proper forest management and stop controlled burns that Newsom has stopped. You cut it out with California's failed diversity, equity, inclusion, homeless spending. You require water capture instead of flushing it into the ocean. We're not going to pay for this anymore. This is your own making. When Florida gets hit by a hurricane, FPL, Florida Power and Light, has power coming back in a couple days. They also build their homes in a certain way to be hurricane-proof. California, they're so left-wing, they're so liberal, they're so out of touch, they're so earth-worshipping. And now entire neighborhoods are gone, as if an atomic bomb was dropped. In 2020, Pacific Palisades voted 70% for Joe Biden. So it's 70-30. This looks like Ukraine, not our own country. Oh, but it's funny you mentioned that, because Joe Biden and Senate Republicans have sent a lot of money to Ukraine. A lot. In fact, we spent $250 billion to Ukraine. This is the current ruling class regime. And by the way, didn't you know this? The Los Angeles Fire Department just donated surplus supplies to Ukraine. Don't take my word for it. James Woods, who has become a really good friend, said, hey, the fire truck pulled up to try to put out the fire in front of his home. Turns out there was no water. But there is a lesbian fire chief. Which one would you rather have? Water, lesbian fire chief. Lesbian, fire chief, water. Play cut 124.
Laura, with all due respect, if it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires in 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground. I watched on a Ring camera a guy have to sit and watch his pet burn to death. You know, those things are issues of the heart when you watch a cherished little pet. Or, you know, look, my home is a building. It was we worked 3 years putting the home together. We loved our little house, but it means nothing compared to the 5 people who lost their lives.
James Woods is an American hero. By the way, he went to MIT. He's brilliant. Let's put that up on screen here. I want you just to see this. No one deserves the tragedy, but they did invite tragedy to their home. This is how the precincts of Palisades and California voted. There is not a single red precinct in sight. Do you see that? There is not a single red. In fact, it's as blue as it gets. Oh, yeah, sure. We don't care if we have water. Black Lives Matter. Oh, yeah, we don't care if that we don't clean up the brush. Diversity is our strength. Oh, yeah. We don't care if we have a fire chief that knows how to turn on the fire truck. In this house, we believe. These are the same people that were chasing you through the street because you decided to go for a walk in the park without a mask on. That right there is how all of these neighborhoods voted. And I don't take delight in it. In fact, I take sadness when I see this. You should be sad looking at that, because what you have seen right there is entire neighborhoods commit suicide. They committed suicide with their vote over a long period of time. And suicide's sad. Suicide is objectively a tragedy. It is not something to celebrate. I'm not rubbing it in their face. I'm not saying, oh, you deserve this. No. You guys decided to slit the throat of your own driveways. And yes, there are a lot of exceptions to people. 20 to 30% of those neighborhoods are people that I know. As I mentioned, our dear friend Stacy, her home is just gone. I have other friends I'm not going to say on air. Entire home's gone. Other people that I know, family members, entire home's gone. Gone. So there's exceptions. But the majority, the vast majority, 7 out of 10 of the people in those neighborhoods, they said, bring it on. The question has always been, when will people in California wake up? We thought it would be when a homeless man is taking a crap in your front yard. Maybe now the wake-up call will be when you don't have a front yard. You know that sign is the in this house we believe Black Lives Matter and women's rights are human rights and no human is illegal and science is real, love is love and kindness is everything. Let's put this up. The dark truth and humor of that sign is that sign means nothing if you don't have a house.